Hello, this is Eric Miscoll, and this is the Eric Miscoll Show. Sorry about that. This is our first show here at Productronica 2019 in Munich. Those of you unfamiliar with this venue, what we do is we gather together some interesting people, and we have no agenda, and somehow magic happens anyway. So this is just intended as kind of a reflection on the day, what we're seeing on the show, and kind of any industry trends we care to comment on and kick around here. So to introduce our guests, from Bright Machines, we have Brian. From Cogiscan, we have François. And at the end down there from Scoop is Phil. I'll start by saying every time I come to Productronica, Electronica, whichever it is, I am absolutely overwhelmed. This is an awesome show size-wise. Just the sheer scope of this and everything that's here is, you need an attack plan and a full schedule to really get the benefit out of this. And I walk around, and there's no way in my 2 days that I'm going to even probably scratch the surface on a place like this, you know. Now you both have booths here, right, and are doing that. So hopefully you're attracting and it's getting. But how's it going so far for you? Are you seeing some good traction? Are you?
Oh, absolutely. It's been really busy. You're right. Between the customer meetings and so on, it's really even hard to get out to see the show floor. There's just so much to see. I took about an hour and tried to run through as much as I could and took a lot of notes. Got to come back.
So how's it going for you folks?
It's also been probably the best first day of a show that I've seen in a long, long time. For us, I spent a bit of my time in our booth, but we also have many partners, as you know, with our connectivity business. So I spent a lot of time essentially in my partner's booth, but they're all extremely busy, so that's a great sign. Yeah.
Phil, I don't know if you've even had a chance to get out.
I have barely been off the booth, apart from comfort breaks. So I've been here most of the time. But this show always blows me away. You know, we're close to 2,000 exhibitors at a show like this. Normally 50,000 visitors. The numbers are baffling, and I think it's partly because it is biannual. It's every 2 years. People focus effort around it. They invest in it. You can come here and you can see pretty much every machine that you're going to see in any EMS factory around the world right now. You can talk to the people that are connecting those factories, that are building up those layers of software. So to get a snapshot of how the SMT industry or the EMS industry, whatever you want to call it, sees something like Industry 4.0, it's phenomenal, and that's why I thought it was really interesting when you've got these two guys on there, because I wanted to get their feedback on that. And I've not met Bright Machines before, so I'm fascinated with their model because they're a software company that sells hardware, which fascinates me in itself.
No, exactly, and that's why actually this was a good pairing, I thought, because when I think about it, what both of your companies have in common is improving the operations for the EMS, right? Simplifying and doing. Now you do it in different ways, right? Obviously, the software. Like Phil was just saying with you, it's a software enhanced manufacturing, effectively. Right, and it's a software first, kind of model that Bright Machines puts out there. And the flip side, Cogiscan, is you're doing really that trace track control and kind of helping everybody, regardless of the machinery that they're using, kind of to flow through that. By the way, I don't know if you two are connected, if that works yet, but that's a whole.
Actually, there are, yeah.
Actually, one of his colleagues came to our booth today to talk about that.
Oh, very good. Well,
magic happens. Yeah.
Magic happens, but and I think that's kind of a theme throughout a lot of this show is really how do you help the EMS, and the EMS companies themselves aren't. I think somebody sized it for me before. There are fewer than 20 actually booths present doing that. That'll be Electronica next year, obviously, but they're certainly here on the show.
There are way more walking the aisles.
Oh, there's a lot of them out. Yeah, as it usually is for these types of things, right?
Yeah.
So. But let's talk about that whole theme about the improving the operation, improving the efficiencies, and streamlining it for it. And maybe we start with you, Brian, kind of how you folks are bringing that and addressing that here.
Yeah, so what we're looking at and focused on is if you go to these EMS companies, you've got millions of workers at the end of the assembly line. So a lot is already automated, pick and place and so on. But that final assembly and inspection phase has millions of workers, and they're getting to be more expensive. and you're seeing attrition of these people where there might be 20% turnover, not per year, but per month in some factories. So if you're not, some of these companies have to hire, 300,000 people a month just to keep the factories operating. So what we're trying to do is automate that final assembly inspection with a software and hardware combination that we call software-defined manufacturing. It's really a software-first approach, and it's trying to combine a lot of different technologies to be able to do things that humans do real easily. Pick up a screw, put it in a hole, and drive a screw. If you've got a robot that's blind, numb, and dumb, it doesn't need to be that way anymore. We've got machine learning to make these systems fast, smart. We've got computer vision, and we've got IoT for the tactile, and it really just needs to be integrated. There are some people doing that, but what we're really trying to do is connect all the dots from CAD all the way down to the robot in a user interface that's so easy you don't need to hire these armies of system integrators, these people that are really eating you alive. It's not that you couldn't automate these processes before, it's just it was going to take you 9 months and it was going to take you millions of dollars. And so how do we drive that down?
Yeah. Does that put the digital thread into more of the process? Because I guess we've got the digital thread going pretty well down the SMT line and getting those machines connected. It's going beyond that, isn't it, to those more discrete processes?
The digital thread, the tracing, the going from CAD all the way down, all of that matters. But there's a couple of these things that really break the process down. You could have had a digital twin. There are digital twin technologies been around for a while, but you really only see it adopted in the automotive industry at any real scale. And part of the reason for that is that the simulation of reality, the simulation of the robot, and the reality of what's in the cell are going to be different. The screwdriver tip might be a millimeter longer than what the simulation says. That conveyor belt might have gotten bolted down a millimeter away from where it's supposed to be. So yeah, you can simulate everything in one of these tools, but then it doesn't translate to reality. And if you want to go from one line to two, again, that next line isn't going to be the same as the previous. So you always have this army of system integrators on teach pendants tweaking the coordinates. And that's where we think computer vision advanced, not the 2D kind of computer vision you see at many of these companies, but the full-on, very sophisticated 3D auto calibration all integrated together, and then starting with CAD as the reference to drive the whole process.
Do you see that, François, when you're talking to your customers? Do you see a desire to have that digital thread way beyond the SMT line?
Yeah, definitely. Although my company is not involved throughout the whole. We're more of a niche player where we really typically stop after the SMT line, right? So that's where we play. But of course, they need to look at everything from actually design all the way to the end users. That's what some of the big PLM and MES companies call the whole product life cycle. And then it needs to loop back, right? So you need to learn from your end users to improve your design, and then you simulate manufacturing. So it's really the whole digital thread is definitely it's the only logical the way to look at the world, I think.
Yeah, and it's a complete connected system, isn't it, throughout the factory?
Yeah,
so
very complementary. They've got the traceability from all the suppliers and all those components all the way through. And you don't want it to just stop at the front end of the line. You want to take that data all the way.
Yeah, all the way out of the door. Yeah, and I think connectivity is a key element to that.
Yeah. And what I also like is that you're very clear on what your model is and what you're doing. Like you're saying, we start at the SMT. You guys aren't trying to do the PCBA, right? No, you're very clear. That's there. It's automated. It's there. What we're trying to do is help to automate it even further in the areas that haven't done so yet.
We are interested in taking some of the data, for example, what Cogiscan would have and others, and how do we surface that up and get it in the cloud where we can apply machine learning, dashboards, analytics, KPIs. There needs to be more understanding, not just of the traceability aspects, but all of the manufacturing aspects. And so that's a part where we are interested in anything that gets this data from many players, makes it open, makes it computable, and really create an ecosystem where many companies can participate to get more intelligence and really make it a round-trip process, not just a one-way.
Ecosystem is the right word. I totally agree with you. There are so many different niche players in different parts of the process, and they all have their expertise and deep expertise, and you need that. but somehow all the pieces have to come together. Many times we have to feed higher level systems, or we have to integrate with other systems at our level, and that openness and the I guess even the culture of collaboration, must be there. People have to collaborate before machines can collaborate, right? And that's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me to our mugs.
Yeah.
All about connectivity. Tell me a bit about But First Connect. What does that? Where's that come from?
Well, it doesn't come from me actually. It comes from the brains of our marketing team that are very creative people. Yeah, and apparently there's this show I don't know about, but that says But First Coffee, and then they took that concept of But First Coffee. In our world, we're all about connectivity, and we think that this is a starting point. If you want to do anything like Industry 4.0, you have to start there. So But First Connect.
Yeah, and it's connecting people, it's connecting machines, it's connecting ecosystems.
On the machinery, and to bring it back, one of the things I've noticed at shows are those robotic arms that people are putting to and as at SMTAI, I think you weren't there this year, were you? And they, you were there. I'm sorry, I forget you so easily.
I was sat at this end of the table, Eric, as I always am.
But they had, and down from us, there was a small EMS out of the Northwest who he started his own company with a robotic arm to do just simple kind of, screwing things in, right? And as I walk around, I see more of those now than I did years before, right? And so it certainly is a trend, something that's coming more. So I'm thinking from your space too, even though yours is more inclusive of other things, there is competition developing in those areas from people developing these simple solutions to handle the labor-intensive, repetitive tasks.
Yeah, I would say that robotics is not new at all. It's been around for decades, and the question is not on the robots themselves. It's how long did it take you to program the robot to get it to do what you wanted to do? How long did it take you to design the safety systems and the controllers and so on, and the communication, because you've got to trace the whole line. You've got to integrate to the machines before you and the machines after you in the line. So, robotics is not interesting. We're not a robotics company. Right. We actually use and source robotics components from several other manufacturers. We're really focused on the software that makes it easy to program these things, and in a way that almost virtualizes the robots. What we call is, we don't think of ourselves as an automation company. We think of ourselves as a company that's trying to automate the automation process. Automate the entire process of designing, building, debugging, programming, configuring, all of that, and doing that in a scalable way. In fact, our business model, we don't even sell the robots. You subscribe to the robot. So instead of being a capital expense where the customer takes all the risk, we change it into an operational expense. It's the same as human beings. You can hire and fire a person. You can also hire and fire our robots. And we take the risk. So that allows you to scale up production, bring on more robots. When the lifespan of that product's starting to wane and demand's going down, you can scale back and give the robots back to us. So it's a very different way. It's not about selling robots.
So, Brian, do you have a whole bunch of disgruntled robots back at your place that are...
No, because that's the other thing that's interesting about the robotics. When you see all these robotic arm manufacturers, again, there's so much system integration trying to teach that robot to do one specific task that once that product's life is over, you usually scrap a lot of that equipment. It's very custom. And so we're trying to make these modular systems that are reusable. So you reuse these robots and you just swap the components for the next task. And this is why it's software first. It's the software that's going to control all these modules.
Yeah, I really like the phrase automating automation. That's really key. But for me, one of the benefits people are going to get out of this is agility. And that's what we're trying to drive with this digital factory environment, this digitized manufacturing ecosystem, agility to do high mix, high volume, with something as that might be considered as complex as robotics, but be able to do it very, very quickly and very, very flexible. That's really important to customers these days, François.
It is, yeah. And what we're trying to do is to simplify the whole overall process so that things become more seamless and that you can iterate more rapidly also, and you don't need such a high level of knowledge to be able to do things. So, product lifetime is shorter, so everything has to happen faster and more efficiently. At the end of the day, it's about cost and time to market. And that's what our industry is all about. So anything that we can do to help streamline the process and make it easier is the key. Yeah.
And the other piece, before we wrap here, when I talk to OEMs, as I do, and with EMS companies about these solutions, a lot of it is from the OEMs. The question is, are they going to pay for it, right? They're going to pay for their EMS to invest in it. And the answer generally is OEMs don't like investing in things they don't have to, right? For the EMS, though, what you hear is that these new tools, these new the systems are what the OEMs expect to see when they come in your factory, right? So they're expecting that you're doing this and that you're deriving the efficiencies out of those. Once you invest in it, you derive the efficiencies, which then justify it, and hopefully you can be successful in that.
I think it's table stakes now. I think it's table stakes. If you're not automating, if you're not digitally transforming, you're not going to be serving the big OEMs.
Not only do they don't want to pay for it, they expect that your cost will reduce as a result of this automation.
Yeah.
So they actually expect cost savings out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that makes it easy if you can make it not only getting all the quality benefits and so on, but if you can drive the cost out at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's key. But what I particularly like, and I'm interested to see how it flies within your business, is this equipment as a service idea, because I think that's something this industry needs, not just from a robotics point of view, but when you look at, I don't know, maybe a high-end X-ray machine, people who own those machines use them for like 10% of the time. We need to Uberize that capacity and do stuff with it. So this equipment as a service thing, I think, is exciting. We're seeing it happening in other industries now.
And we're seeing it in this industry, right?
But if we take it up a level, and where our two companies really agree is, once you start automating all of that stuff, something magical is going to happen about the data. So having that traceability, being able to track various suppliers and components all the way through, and then bring that to the cloud where we can make it computable and really get insights that go beyond what a human can get insights about, and not just learn insights on this specific product, but how do we transfer those insights to other products, other situations, and really, when we talk about automation, automate the design of the next product, and that's where the OEMs are going to care, because we can actually bring this all the way back into the CAD product when something's being designed and say, are you really sure you want to do that? There's a better way, and I have the data to prove it. And that way we get products that aren't just broken at the factory. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, our time has come here. I must call an end. Thank you very much for gathering, for sharing your thoughts. I think this was very good. It's always interesting, Phil. Always good to have you join in on these shows. We will do another one tomorrow with another hopefully interesting panel. But so for those of you watching, tune in for the next one. Thank you very much. And again, to all of you, thank you for your time.